The bus wheezed to a halt, spitting Rohan onto the dusty Kota bus stand. His father's hand, rough and calloused, clasped his shoulder. "This is your future, Beta," his father said, pride etched into his lined face. "Work hard. Make us proud." Rohan managed a weak smile, the weight of expectation settling heavily on his young shoulders. His mother's voice, warm and comforting, crackled through the phone. "You'll always be my bright boy." The words were a balm, but the anxiety remained, a knot tightening in his stomach. The hostel room was a stark contrast to his mother's loving embrace. Small, cramped, and dimly lit, it felt more like a cage than a haven. His roommate, Aditya, a gaunt figure lost in the glow of his laptop, barely acknowledged his arrival. The creaking fan and stained walls whispered of hardship and loneliness. The first major test was a cold slap in the face. Hundreds of faces, blurred with stress and ambition, surrounded him in the coaching institute. The test paper felt heavy, each question a mountain to climb. His rank, near the bottom, burned into his consciousness. The teacher's mocking voice echoed in his ears. "If you can't handle this, go home. Don't waste your parents' money." Shame, hot and suffocating, washed over him. Nights were the worst. The silence of the room pressed down on him, amplifying the gnawing loneliness. A text message from his childhood friend, a cheerful invitation to a trip, stung with its unattainable promise. He deleted his reply. There was no time for fun, only the relentless pressure to succeed. Aditya's quiet question, "You okay?" felt like an intrusion, a reminder of his isolation. Rohan nodded, the lie catching in his throat. Days bled into weeks, each filled with relentless study and gnawing self-doubt. The weight of his parents' sacrifices, the pressure to succeed, the crushing loneliness, it all threatened to bury him. One evening, staring out at the city lights, a single tear rolled down his cheek. It wasn't a tear of despair, but of a silent cry, a silent acknowledgement of the struggle, a silent plea for strength. He picked up his pen, the weight of it strangely comforting. He had a long way to go, but he would not give up. The fight was far from over, but he was ready to face it. The city sprawled beneath Rohan, a glittering abyss reflecting the turmoil within him. His hands trembled as he typed a final message to his parents. "I tried my best. I really did. I love you." He was inches from the edge, the cold night air a stark contrast to the burning tears in his eyes. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on his arm. It was Aman, his classmate, his face etched with a fear that mirrored Rohan's own desperation. "Don't, please," Aman pleaded, his voice shaking. Rohan, stunned, looked at him. "I lost a friend last year," Aman confessed. "He did this, and no one stopped him. I won't let it happen again." The dam broke. Rohan collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably as Aman held him close, a silent promise of support in the suffocating darkness. The next day, the weight of the previous night still hung heavy, but it was different. Rohan sat with Aman and Aditya, his other friend. Aditya's words cut through the silence. "You think you're alone? We all feel this way, but we can't give up." The unspoken understanding that passed between them was more powerful than any words. For the first time, Rohan didn't feel utterly alone. He felt seen, felt understood. A week later, Rohan found himself in a counselor's office. The counselor's calm voice soothed his frayed nerves. "Your dreams matter," she said gently, "but you matter more." Rohan wiped his tears, a new sense of hope blossoming within him. He was beginning to believe her. He was beginning to believe in himself. A year later, the city lights held a different glow. Rohan, Aman, and Aditya sat together on the same terrace, bathed in the warm hues of the setting sun, laughter echoing in the air. Rohan checked his phone, a nervous flutter in his chest. His entrance exam results. He hadn't topped the class, but he'd passed. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. He tore up the old goodbye message, his fingers replacing the despair with a new text. "I'm okay now. I'm fighting, and I won't give up." The city lights, once a symbol of his despair, now shimmered with the promise of a brighter future, a future he was actively building, one day at a time. Pressure is real. Depression is real, but so is hope. Seek help. Speak up. You are not alone.